What's up, everybody? Back again. We got a special guest. OG tripseven member, Trip. He's come all the way from St. Louis. We're going to see a demo tomorrow. What the hell's been up, man? It's been like almost 20 years.
Yeah, man, 20 years in the making. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on the podcast here. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. So we'll just get right into it.
Let's get it.
When did you first start skating? How old were you? When did you start?
Let's see. I'm getting old enough now, man. It's about 30 years. It's hard to say, man. Pushing 40 ain't no joke. So
Yeah.
probably about 30 years. Been skating on and off. First started probably about when I was 7, 8. My Gma picked up Sport Fun Inc. orange banana board. Kind of like the Juniper that's sitting over there.
Yeah.
Except for it had both noses were pointed, and it was bright orange. Came from a garage sale. I hated the orange, so the first thing I did was I went in my G-Paw shed, spray painted it black. I rode it so much, like in their little carport area, that the spray paint started coming off. You know, just ripping back and forth, trying to figure it out. You know, I think the crazy thing about when I first started, you know, it was such a small town that, you know, she lived in. My pops, he was in boot camp at the time, so we stayed with her. So I just was trying to figure things out on my own, and didn't really have any skate videos or whatever. So picked up that, and, you know, just kind of ripped around the carport. And actually, that was on that board I had bombed my first hill.
Nice.
where my grandma stayed. You'd come out on her street, and then you hit a T road, and there was a Holiday Inn right there. And like, Holiday Inn was up on a hill, and during the wintertime it was like the spot to go sledding, because it's a huge hill behind there.
Yeah.
And the road had kind of followed the hill along beside the hotel. And, you know, little kid about 7, 8, you know, balls to the wall, rolled over there on the skateboard and just decided to just kind of bomb the hill. So just coasting, hauling ass. At the end of the road, as it started to flatten out, there was like a baseball field off to the side of it. And I remember coming down the hill, just fast, super speed, no speed wobbles though, which was crazy because the banana board had super grip wheels. Yeah. And they, you know, like they were made of not like neoprene or something. They were kind of soft, so, and the trucks were so short back. Yeah, so short back then. Yeah. You really couldn't really catch a speed wobble. I almost make it to the bottom of the hill, probably about 10 feet out, and just airborne. And I ate shit hard. And I remember like hearing a motorcycle like come up, and the guy gets off of the motorcycle. He's got a Hell's Angels patch on, you know, and yeah, he helps me up. You know, you all right? And I guess I had hit a rock or something. And after that, you know, I knew once it wouldn't kill me, I just kept going after that, you know. Yeah. So that was when I first started getting into it. And then being a military brat, we did our first duty station in Norfolk, Virginia, and caught up with a homie that he had a Nash with the tail bumper on it and the
I
side
remember
rails.
those. Yeah.
It was like neon green, ugly as shit. And I used to roll around with him, but what I'd do is I'd like follow him on my bike,
Mm-hmm.
and then he'd like, you know, rip up and down the sidewalk. You know, we'd
Yeah.
go through military housing, and then we'd switch. And about that time, there was a kid that lived a couple of houses down. He tried to be friends with me or whatever, and he had a skateboard, and I don't know. We were messing around one day in his backyard, and I was like, "Hey man, can I get that board?" He's like, "Yeah man, if you want to mess around with it." And the way housing was set up was you had like main streets and an alley, main street then an alley, whatever. So we'd mess around in the alley, and I don't know. I loved it enough where I was like, "I want this
You
board.
gotta have it.
I gotta
You
have it." So me and him went in the backyard, and I was like, "I'll scrap you for it." And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" And so I shoved him, you know, or whatever, and we got into it, and I ended up kicking his ass and told him that his mama wore combat boots. And I remember the same day his mom came over and knocked on the door and wanted to talk to my mom. And it wasn't about like me taking his board, it was more about me kicking his ass in the backyard. And so anyways, the mom had saw that I had the board and that I was like, you know, messing around in the alley, and the kid ended up just said he gave it to me or whatever. So that board actually was it was a Tony Alba board.
Oh,
So
nice. Hell yeah.
once I got a hold of that, me and my homie Vincent, we used to just shred, you know, through the whole military housing area.
So that was like your first real board?
That was my first real board, yeah. You know, I snaked it from the kid, and I just I rode that for a long time, and about that same time, man, the last little stint that we did in Norfolk, my pops, he used to play side gigs. He was in a band, and he'd played this place called Waterside, and he'd do like 2 gigs on a weekend, whether it be like Saturday or Sunday or Friday night, Saturday or whatever.
Yeah.
And we used to go hang out there. It was kind of like a mall. Like it had a food court and like chocolate factory where they flip chocolate and all that stuff. And just because we were military, and I mean, we kind of were, you know, broke, didn't have a whole lot of money. It was like a cool place to go hang out, whatever. And so we'd hang out there. And I remember I had taken that board with me. In the back of it, it had it was like a brick sidewalk, real tight knit, and then there was like a dock where the boats would park.
Yeah.
And so I was back there just messing around or whatever, and the way right outside of it was they had like a little amphitheater that had like concrete, you know, like setting or whatever. So it's kind of set up like, you know, if you wanted to, it could be a mani pad.
Yeah.
So I remember going up on there and trying to ollie off and just, you know, trying to teach myself, you know, my own tricks, because really still I hadn't gotten into the video scene, and, you know, there wasn't a whole lot that I was exposed to as far as, you know, being able to see all the videos that you can now and like go on YouTube. And
Yeah,
you know,
you had to get them on VHS, and they were like $30 a piece.
yeah, yeah.
You had to live near a skate shop, and it was really hard. Like y'all younger skaters don't know how lucky you have it. Like, you know, it costs a lot of money, and they were only like 30 minutes long back then.
Yeah,
If that,
that's all you could put on the tape.
like
You'd run out
15
of
to
tape.
30 minutes long, and then like now they have full length skate videos and shit.
Yeah,
Jesus.
so I was in the back one weekend messing around, and I just hear this like rumbling noise coming at me, you know, and I turned around, and it was like a group of dudes. There's probably like probably 5, 6 of them.
Yeah.
And they rolled up, and then like that little mani pad that I was telling you about, you know, you could use it as a ledge, you know, if you wanted to or whatever. And these kids, they probably are age range from 13 to 16 maybe. The oldest one maybe had been about 17. So anyways, it was my first exposure to like just gritty, grimy street skating.
Yeah.
And I'm on an old Tony Alba board, and I'm seeing these dudes roll up, you know, with popsicle stick boards. Because now we're talking, you're looking at like early 90s, you know, like 91, 92 area.
You got kicktails on both.
On
you
both
got the
ends,
tails
yeah,
on the
yeah.
both ends now.
Yep. So these dudes roll up, and they just start ripping hard. And so I've always been the type of person where I wasn't really afraid to like talk to people.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of like the military lifestyle. They, you know, you have to get acclimated and adjust.
Always meeting new people.
Yeah, meeting new people. So the skateboarding world kind of introduced me to be able to be up front and like introduce myself. You know, didn't care if anybody didn't like me, or oh, there's this little kid or whatever, because these guys are, you know, teenagers. And so I go up and introduce myself, and they're like, hey man, cool board, you know. And I'm like, I've never seen one of those before, like where'd you get that, you know? And so they start introducing themselves, and they're like, they all had nicknames. It's like, I'm so-and-so, or I'm Tank, whatever, you know, like. And then the one kid that was closer to my age, he was probably about 13, maybe pushing 14 at the time. He's like, I'm MJ. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, you know. And they're like, what's your name? You know, I tell them my name and everything. And so I kind of was interested in like who they were and like where they came from. And they came up from like North Carolina area, and they were like by way of going to Virginia Beach. And Virginia Beach at the time, they had like a surf scene.
Yeah.
They had a skate scene because you had 17th Street Surf Shop was on the boardwalk.
That place.
And
Mount Trashmore.
Mount Trashmore, yep. So I'm back there and kind of getting to know everybody or whatever, and you know, asking them about what their nicknames mean or whatever. And so the kid that was closer to my age, I'm like, oh, MJ, like Michael Jordan or something, like, you know, he's a skater, but you know, at the time, early 90s, Michael Jordan, he was, you know, the shit back then. But he's like, Mark. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, so probably your last name? And he's like, yeah, Mark Johnson. So at the time, being that young, I didn't know who he was.
It was the Mark Johnson?
Mark Johnson.
Because he was from North Carolina.
And they used to come up and rep Virginia Beach.
That's right. I remember
So actually now, as you know, old as I am and seeing him go through his career, I didn't know later on until putting two and two together
that was
him and his crew.
Oh man!
So, still staying in that area, you know, just go to Virginia Beach and still, you know, ripping on the Alba board. You know, go up and down the boardwalk. You know, spend some time swimming the beach, whatever. And like every time my parents would take me to the beach, it was like I had to go to 17th Street Surf Shop.
Yeah.
And you go in there, and you know, still about 8, 9, pushing 9 at the time, and just go into the shop, and you were like in awe.
Yeah, that place is. I think I went in there a few times.
Yeah.
And it was just like, because every time like we went to the beach, because we lived out there too for a little while. So every time we went to the beach, I was like, I want to see 17th Street Surf Shop. You know, they had that weird little S.
Yeah.
You know, like the little 3-line S. Everybody doing school and shit. It's like 17th Street Surf Shop, and I was like, this place is like the shit.
Yeah. So I would go there, and you know, I just was like, man, this is what I want to do. Like I really want to skate, and I just at that time, you know, it was something to do. It was something how to make friends. And then, you know, every time I'd go to the surf shop, it was like you'd hear people talk. You know, there wasn't any social media back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you could look up spots on Facebook. It was always like word of mouth, you know, and it was like Laley used to rip that area, and you'd hear like all these names, you know, like, oh, these guys are here and here. And so like what I would try to do is like the boardwalk was so long, man. Like it goes from like basically First Street all the way down to like 78th Street, and each street is like a block and a half, 2 blocks long before you hit the next street.
Yeah.
So as a kid, you know, you'd hear like all these, like, I guess at the time famous people, you know, because I think Mike V, he was already pro around that time, and there was a couple other dudes, you know, from that area, and it was either they were skating, you know, in Bob Beach, or they were skating Mount Trashmore.
Yeah.
So it was like, I need to be where these guys are at. I need to see what they're doing, you know, and I don't care if I have an old school board, you know, like, because I think a lot at that time as things were shifting from the older boards going to the popsicle stick, it was like a lot of the old school skaters were still skating them older boards, you know, the bullets and, you know, the tombstones and all that stuff. So I just wanted to be in the scene. So around that time, you know, it was like every 2 years we moved. So it was about time to leave. So our next duty station was New Orleans. And when I got to New Orleans, we stayed off base, and at that time, you know, BMX was coming up. You know, like and then you had like the Matt Hoffmans, you know, and all that stuff. So I kind of got into that a little bit, like, you know, jumping, you know, bikes off ramps. And there was a kid that lived in my neighborhood, and he had like it was like a quarter pipe, and we used it as a launch ramp. And then we'd go over to the grocery store, and we'd steal grocery carts and bring them over and jump the grocery carts.
Yeah.
And we'd stack them up like too high, and, you know, jump over it or whatever. Because like I lived in a townhome community, and I lived on the corner house, and so like there was a side lot, so like we could do you know, jumps and stuff like that. And I was kind of leaning on like the BMX scene, you know, but I still wanted to skate.
Yeah.
And I started school and met up with a homie. His name was Matt. He was a rich kid. He always was wearing like the Marathon Francois Chabot get up, you know, or whatever. And I ended up getting real good friends with him, and we would have sleepovers. He'd like stay at my house, or I'd stay over at his house. I mainly stayed over at his house because, you know, he had all the money. And
yeah.
I remember this was in between fifth and sixth grade. It was like the summer in between both grades, and there was a girl that went to school with us, and she'd have a pool party like almost every day of the week, you know. And he had a pool, but his parents didn't really like, you know, a whole lot of kids over.
Yeah.
So one night, while I was spending the night, I was like, hey, you know, I skate. And he was kind of like into skateboarding or whatever. He had a board just because he could, you know, having money and shit. And I convinced him to empty his pool. And he knew how to do it. He'd help his dad, like, you know, every summer since he was a little kid. You know, empty pool, clean it out, whatever. And so I convinced him that night that I had stayed over to empty the pool.
Nice.
And I mean, still had like a little bit of water in it because we didn't pump the water out. But it was like one of those things where it was like I wanted to skate so bad. I was like, empty your pool and I'll skate it and you can watch. And then maybe, like, you know, even if you're in skateboarding, you know, maybe you could just drop in, or, you know, we could just kind of roll around in it. And I remember his dad came home. His dad was like a businessman or something, but he was always out of town. But he actually came home that Sunday and was like, where the hell's all the water at in the pool? And we just basically played dumb, you know. And so I still wanted to skate. And I lived on base in New Orleans, and I just pushed around. There wasn't a skate park, you know, nearby. And at the time that I lived in New Orleans, it was like the murder capital of the world. It was like, you know, they had like 400 murders that year out of 365 days. So it was like more than 2 or whatever. So it wasn't like I could leave base and, you know, just mess around. Yeah, or do anything like that. It was, I had to stay on base. So, you know, I would just push around. There wasn't a whole lot to do. It wasn't, you know, any benches or anything like that. And I'm still trying to learn, you know, because there's not that whole accessibility of videos yet, you know, getting a hold of them. So at the end of that tour, we go to Chicago. And when we get to Chicago is where I really start progressing I had a friend, James. His dad was a captain, and he lived at the top of the base housing. So there was like this like really big hill, and it had like almost like a hip in it. So I'd walk all the way up the hill, you know, bomb the hill, come down, and the cool thing about the way housing was set up was it was kind of like apartments at the top and then townhomes at the bottom. Yeah. But if you lived at the very top, they were like almost like single family homes, yeah. Which was where like all the officers lived or whatever. So ride my bike up to his place, park my bike, he skated. We got to be friends, you know, for school. We were in the same class or whatever. But the cool thing was I'd park my bike at his house, and then once you made it down towards my house, coming down the hill, yeah. There were all these like corridors, and like it'd be like a 3-flat-3. Yeah. So now I'm starting to like progress where I can ollie, you know, the stairs, hit the flat, ollie again, yeah. You know, and we're talking getting close to mid-90s now, so now it's like the magazines. I mean, the magazines are always around.
Yeah, but now it's more popular.
Now it's more popular.
You see them like in grocery stores and like Walmart and everywhere that they used to not be. Like it used to, you know, be exclusive.
Yeah.
But now you know you can get them anywhere.
And so the cool thing about like with them being more accessible and you know being in the stores, I'd go stay the night at his house, and then there was a mini mart on base housing.
Yeah.
And then we'd walk over to the mini mart and we'd boost like Slack, boost Thrashers, you know, Trans World.
Yeah.
Because back then when you wear like starter jacket, so it had the pouch in the front,
yeah,
so you put one in the pouch,
put it in,
fold it up, slide it in your sleeve, you know, go up to the register, you know, buy a pack of Mambos or whatever, yeah. And then, you know, just leave. And then we'd go back to his house and it was like flip page, read every word for word, you know,
yeah.
like the interviews and
skate tips inside.
Yeah.
So now you're able to get skate tips. You're able to like see the skate world better, you know, than you used to be able to.
Yeah. So that's when I really progressed. I still think I was riding the Tony Alva board by the time I got there that far. That's how like
board.
It lasted forever, man. You know, it's
yeah.
Like, but where I had lived at, there was an older kid that lived catty corner from me, and he actually I think was late middle school. I still was like, or no, he was actually getting ready to go into high school. I was early middle school, and we were riding around one day and happened to see a skateboard out front of somebody's house.
Yeah. And
the little shit that I was at the time, you know, I got a new BMX bike for I think it was Christmas or my birthday or something, and I jump ramps, you know, in a cul-de-sac or whatever, and like my pops, he'd always be like, that bike's for riding, it's not for jumping, you know, whatever. So anyways, even though I still skated, did the bike thing on the side, I see this board out front of somebody's house, so I run up to it while we're riding bikes and I just yank it.
Yeah.
It ended up being the Alien Workshop rainbow board. So now I got a popsicle stick.
So now you got a new up to date
real
board.
Real board. Kicked the kid's ass for the first board, steal the second board, and so starting to ride on that, I had to get it like adjusted, you know.
Yeah.
Different style, a board, you know, it's skinnier, it's got concave. So starting to figure that out, and the cool thing was 3-flat-3s. So it went from like ollieing, you know, the stairs and trying to figure it out, and then flipping back to the magazines. It was like you'd see a board turned over. So how did that board turn over? You know, 'cause still not getting any skate videos, visually watching it, you had to see, you know, the snapshots, the sequence
of it.
Yeah, you had to see the sequence in the magazine. So, and then they had the tips and tricks, you know. But reading it's like, put your foot here, you know, kick it out this way or whatever. So, I kind of taught myself as I was progressing, you know. So by the time that tour ended, we went overseas to Italy, and right before I got ready to leave, even though I had the Alien Workshop board, we mail ordered from CCS. I had a Musca board, and at that time, getting ready to go overseas, I think we were starting to like financially get a little bit more stable. So I think I got it as kind of like a, hey, we're going overseas.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on board. Even though the Navy's telling us where we're going. So I kept ripping. I show up in Italy. I got the Musca board. I didn't the whole time I had a little bit of time before I had left.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that it was flawless.
Yeah.
I think I ended up with the board. I got an independent backpack with the board straps on it, and so we roll on the plane, get overseas. We get dropped off at it's like a hotel for like temporary lodging, and I just grabbed the board. It was the hotel was right on the beach, and the way overseas is, man, everything's smooth, super smooth. So I just up and down boardwalk again, and then now starting to like look at ledges and benches and stuff like that. And the cool thing about the benches over there was everything's marble pretty much. So it was like try to figure out how to 5-0 or 50-50 on the bench. And I think while I was in the hotel, I had met another kid he was kind of in the skate scene, and he had videos. So that was like the first time that I was exposed to like a skate video.
Yeah. You were like, what the hell?
I was like, they make this?
Mind blown.
Yeah. Knowing that they still made it, but I was like, man, it's just so crazy to actually see film, and watch it. And this is like the summer of my 8th grade year, going into freshman year. There was a water park not too far away, and so I jumped the fence. I'm like, the crazy thing about it was summertime and the pools are empty, nobody there. There's a bunch of slides, so dropping in on the slides and whatever, and I hear another group of skateboarders. So it's like a flashback all over again, like back at Waterside, and so I stop what I'm doing and I'm listening, and I hear them, ripping next to where I was at, and so I'm like, fuck it, man. I'm gonna just drop in on this pool. So I drop in, skating around and whatever, and I see like 4 heads pop up over the fence. Hey, what are you doing? And I had a World Industry shirt on at the time, and they saw that I was skating. They're like, hey man, you gotta get out. You gotta get out. And it was these 2 brothers, Tim and Mike, and this homie Ken and Donnie. And they were skating back there, and like, yo man, you gotta get out, just come chill, I guess the people that owned that, they had some dogs, and like if people jumped the fence, they'd send the dogs out after you, whatever. So I kick it with them. Going into my freshman year, I'm hanging out with seniors, just because that skate life, it just
got the connection.
Yeah,
it always seems like that. Sometimes it's always like younger, older. It's always in skating, you'll always see that, like younger and older people, just because you got the new ones always coming up, so you got the old heads too.
Yeah.
So it always just seems, to me anyway, it's always been like that, like the same thing.
Yeah. So by this time, instead of just hanging out like with one homie, like through each year or every duty station that I went to, now there's a clique. Because now you're in high school. Yeah. So you got your your jocks and your skaters and your punks and this, that, and the other, all the stereotypes. So yeah, I clicked in with the skaters, and it was kind of like they took me under their wing. Now I have a group of people that I can actually watch. Yeah. And progress even more. And so my progression from Chicago to Italy just like was tenfold. It was, instead of the 3 flat 3, it was like a 6 set. There still wasn't really any skate parks, at this time, especially in Europe. It was more just still street skating. I never was really into vert, even though I'd been to Trashmore, and seen, people rip there.
Yeah.
At Trashmore, it was just the half pipe. There was no skate park there.
It's just that big old half pipe there.
Now there's actually a skate park there.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But so I'm with a big group of people now that have the same interest.
Yeah.
So it just, people come and go when you're in the military. So it was like, a couple dudes would leave, and then a couple dudes would come, and like the clique just got a little bit bigger and bigger and whatever. So the whole time, I was in Italy, I think that's what really got me to where I could be better and better and better.
Yeah.
Because we were constantly pushing each other.
Yeah,
Hey, man,
it's always like, it's always better. Like when you skate alone, like I said, you can't progress because you don't know what's going on. Even if you do got magazines and all that, you're still just, it's just something that messes with your head. Skating alone, you get bummed out. But like when you skate with your crew, like you said, you push each other.
Yeah.
You keep going, and oh, well, you try this. Come on, you can do this. You can do this.
So we're there. This is the longest duty station we've had so far. We were there for 3 years. We were supposed to be set up for 4, but I got that extra year in, and just had that go-getter attitude, just nonstop. That's all I could think about. It was so bad. Like I'd get home from school, go out, shred, rip all day, almost till night, come home, go to school, do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And then we ended up moving on base, and then it was a new military installation at the time. So there's not a whole lot of families out there, there's still not a whole lot of people moved in, but then they had moved our high school on base, and being on a full, like, fenced-in military installation, with gate guards and stuff, and MPs strolling around. I'd come home, rip, get brought home by the MPs, and just, like, they had, it was cool, it was dope, man. They had these, like, bike racks, and when you'd flip them over, it was like you had a double rail.
Yeah.
So, like, we'd flip over to bike racks because they weren't, like, strapped down to the concrete or anything like that. And we'd flip them over and, use them to skate brought home, by the MPs. And, like, it was getting so bad. Like, my pops, man, he'd get pissed and be like, I'm cut your skateboard in half. I'm gonna saw it up. I'm tired of it. That was how adamant about, like, every day bring the skateboard to school. And, like, I'd get away like messing around, I'd bring it and shove it in my locker, and then we would always have breaks in between periods, and I'd just like get it out of my locker, kick flip in the hallway, and then go put it back real quick. So I ate, breathed, and slept skating at this point. So we're looking at trying to stay 4 years. My pops gets a call from the military, and they say, you gotta leave Naples and you got to go to Memphis. And so I tried to stay, but being a military dependent, you got to stay on your parents' orders or whatever. So I had to do like an extra course in high school. I had enough credits where I had to do like a mail order course in order to graduate as a junior, because I didn't want to come here and go to, Millington? Yeah, I didn't want to go to Millington and that be my senior year. Yeah. So I graduated, because I was, I was cool with all the classes coming up. So my junior class that I should have graduated with, the senior class, I was cool with them. You know what I'm saying? So because I had that rapport, and I mean, I'd always throw beach parties and stuff like that, and everybody always wanted to party at my house and whatnot. So I graduated with the senior class as a junior. and then we came here to Memphis. And so I get here, and I knew it was going to be a small stint, because my pops was like, if we go to Memphis, you got to promise me we're going back to Italy, because we wanted to stay there. I mean, the culture is so dope. You know, being able to travel, you know, going to Germany and France and Spain and Luxembourg, Switzerland, Belgium, all that stuff. I got to see like all this shit at a young age, you know, especially like in high school where you can actually appreciate it, you know, high school age. And
then they throw you to Millington.
And they throw
you to Millington.
They throw me to M-Town. So I get here, I meet this cat. I think what I did was, I think when we first got here, I lived in base housing, and then my brother Pretty was in high school, and Tony was in high school.
Yeah.
And they rode the bus together, and Pretty saw that Tony had a skateboard, and he was like, hey man, you need to meet my older brother. And so he brings Tony over to the house. Tony's like, hey man, you want to go rip M-Town? I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we cut up on the main strip, and we hit the bank. And I roll up, and it's like you, Barney, Poe, I think Reggie was there or whatever, even though he fruit booted. And so I meet up with you guys, and then, you know, the whole time I was here, that's all we did.
Yeah.
24/7.
It's what it seemed like pretty much. Just
we jump in the ride. Igor's
ride, yeah.
Hanging out in the Suburban, and then we just go find every local spot that we could. And I mean,
skate all night, skate all day into the night, then drink the rest of the night.
Yep. And we kick it. And so when I meet you guys, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, hey man, let's start a team.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't even remember how we ended up with the name tripseven, but, you know, I remember rolling up to you guys, my nickname was always Trip or whatever, and I think somebody rolled up and was like, hey, there was like 6 of us or something, right? There wasn't 7, because I don't know how we got 7.
No, we were at the skate park, and the fruit booters were talking shit.
Oh, is that what it was?
And they called us Trip7, and I was like, well, that's dumb because there's only 6 of us.
Right.
So I was like, what the hell does that even mean? So I was like, I don't know what that means, but I guess we're fucking
right.
Trip7 now.
So while I'm here, I mean, it was like, I was out of school. I knew I wasn't going to go to college here or anything like that, and so I worked. You know, I worked at Sandusky's or whatever that made.
Yeah, you did work there. You did work there. That's right.
So it's like I go to work early as shit in the morning. I get off, meet up with you guys, because you guys were still in high school.
Yeah.
And then we'd jump in a ride or whatever, or go up to the bank, shred there. And then it was like, once I was here, what was it, like probably about 4 to 6 months, then we were like, hey, once we got called Trip7, we rolled like Trip7.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then we got into making the video.
Yeah.
And we did Champion of the People. And
that was hell. That was because I know that was my first time like really making a video, like trying to make a video part. And my talent back then was nowhere near like what it was like at one point. But it was hard for me.
But the dope thing was I mean, it was like we all pushed each other.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, me and Tony, you know, were more the tech skaters. You know, your manual was insane. Nobody could touch that. But we were like, let's see, you know, fucking Brucey B fucking manual the whole like little median. What was that, like Piggly Wiggly or something like that? This was like a supermarket, and it was like, that shit had to been like 200 feet, if not
long.
more. It was long. And then there was like, well, me and Tony would try it, you know, and couldn't do shit, you know. So like, you know, we had Barney and Poe, them guys, you know, would rip, and it was like we would push them, and we were all pushing each other, like while we're trying to film this video, you know. So while we're trying to put the video together, you know, it was like we find all the spots, nooks and crannies, loading docks with homeless dudes sleeping on them, you know, we'd be downtown, You know, just trying to put our video parts together, and that for me was like super like where I was like, damn, if I leave here, you know, I go back to Italy, like I know that some of the homies are still gonna be there, you know, like my homie Greg Easton, he skated, all the older cats in, you know, military, everybody comes and goes, so it wasn't like I was gonna go back to the same crew.
Yeah.
And I had a crew in Memphis now, and rolling with you guys. So, man, I was like, fuck, if I leave, what the hell, you know? I put all this effort in, you know, and we all put in the effort. You know, we filmed our first rough draft, you know, Champion of the People, and then we were trying to make the second one, Exploited Freedom, you know, and that's ended up when I was starting to leave. But once we did the rough cut of Champion of the People, I remember me and Johnny, we rolled a CBS skate shop, and I think he had like a Honda Civic or something at the time, or I don't know, something like that. We roll up in his ride to CBS, and I was like, hey, we're tripseven, this is our rough cut. I wanted them to pick up the video, or at least, like, you know, check it out, so that we could try to get flow, try to get sponsored, you know, with CBS. And it was kind of an uppity, you know, like skate shop, you know,
out in Cordova.
Yeah. So we roll in there. I got a copy of the rough cut, and the dude's like, yeah, I think it was the owner, and he's like, yeah, you know, we're not trying to pick up a team. And so he's like, but he's like, I'll take a look at the video. So this is still kind of like the DVD area, and he's like, oh, it's on VHS. And so they actually had a VHS player. It was like an old school like box TV, and it hung up. You remember when?
Yeah. Where they show their videos and shit. Yeah.
So he pops it in, and he watches it in the video. I don't think it's really that long. And your parts first, you know, it shows. It opens up like, cash rules everything around me, cream, and then you're on the Manny all day, you know, coming down that stretch. And so he's like, all right, yeah, you know, and so he watches the whole thing, and he's like, hey, you know, for a rough cut, this is pretty dope. And so I was like, well, I'm trying to get us on flow as a team. And he's like, actually, Tony and you, he's like, I'll pick you guys up, and I can put you on flow. And I was like, fuck that, dude. If you are going to pick us, either one of us up, you're going to put the team on flow. And he's like, we're not looking to pick up a team. And I remember when we walked out, like Johnny took there was a ES like display of shoes, like up front near the store window, and he picks up a box and he walks out with it. And he's like, fuck you, this is like the biggest mistake you've ever made, you know. And he like screamed, like we're peeling out in the parking lot. He's like, tripseven for life, you know. And Johnny, he didn't really skate, he just hung out with us, you know. So then I was like, man, I really want to make sure that, you know, everybody's set, you know. And I knew that I was going to be leaving, and so we decided to take a trip to Cheapskates. And, you know, Cheapskates was like that grimy, like down right outside the hood.
There's a Jim Greco kind of skating.
Yeah.
To me, anyway.
So we decided to take a trip all the way across the city, down that way, and we go to Cheapskates, and the owner's there, and I did the same thing. Hey, man, we're a team. It's tripseven. You know, we want to get. I'm trying to get a sponsor. You know, try to at least get flow, because, you know, about that time, you know, skateboarding had come up, kind of almost in its prime, where it was starting to get, you know, popular. Everybody wanted to do it. You know, this, that, and the other. And I know that everybody that had, you know, either got on an AMP team or that was going pro, you know, always did sponsor me videos. Well, this is a sponsor us video, you know what I'm saying, as a team. And the dude was like, yeah, man, kind of same thing. Pops in the video, and he's like, yeah, you know, this is a good rough cut. Show me what it looks like when it's finalized. And I was like, well, I don't know how we're gonna do that, because we didn't have, you know, putting it on DVD capabilities. You know, we were just a bunch of skate rats.
That was our rough cut, final cut.
Right.
This is how we do it.
So he's like, well, I tell you what, if you want, if you can come up with a sleeve and put it on a sleeve, I'll put it in the shop as like a freebie, so everybody knows who you guys are. And he's like, I'll put it right next to this BMX video. You remember the BMX video that we picked up from there? It was like a bunch of backyard shits, you know. But Cheapskates picked them guys up for a sponsor. And I'm like, how do you pick up a BMX crew
when you're a skateboard shop?
So I got pissed off and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna fucking leave this video here for you. And he's like, all right, then fuck you. And I was like, fuck you, bro. Like, you know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, that because we were making a name for ourselves in the area in Memphis, that, you know, that it could continue on. And you know, we had that going away party we threw at the hotel. Yeah. And then I left, and I went back overseas to Naples, still ripped for quite a while. You know, had to reestablish, you know, with a new crew and, you know, younger cats. Now I'm like college age, you know, about 18, 19. And I pushed for a while and ended up leaving early from Naples the second time, coming back to the States. Still had a board. I still have a board, you know. So I've always kept a skateboard with me. And when I got back to the States, I ended up moving to like a little cornfield town, like where my grandma's from. It's about an hour outside of St. Louis. And I show up, you know, the new kid. They thought I was Italian, and I'm like, no, I'm not Italian. I was actually born like time. You know, about 2 hours away from here. You know, the military's what brought me, you know, with my worldwide experience. And then my skateboarding had started to decline a little bit. There were no skate parks. Nobody really ripped. You know, it was my cousin. He was coming up, you know, wanted to skate. So there was like a tennis court right there at the park, not too far from my grandma's house, and we go there and just do flat ground tricks. And then I got into, like, you know, the party scene and, you know, hanging out with people my own age and working and all that stuff. So now life's setting in, you know what I'm saying? So I stay there for a while, go to Rhode Island. I come back to St. Louis. Now I'm getting a little bit older, working more, you know, picking up the board when I can. And then I end up moving back to Norfolk in VA. You know, and then a bunch of high school homies lived there, and, you know, I was always the skate rat, and still had a board. And life starts setting in a little bit more, and you know, got married to my awesome wife, who always puts up with my shit, and married a skate rat, you know what I'm saying? So
let you leave town for a few days, come hang out with
the homie, you know. So, you know, kids are sprouting up, you know, and then life takes over. I probably took about a 6-year hiatus, where I don't think I stepped on a board for probably about 6 years. Just taking care of kids, and my oldest, shout out to Aiden, is getting old enough now where he sees daddy has a skateboard. You know, he's like 4 or 5. They built a brand new skate park north side in Norfolk, and I take him there for his first, you know, rip session. And the first thing I do is I take him into the pool and teaching him how, you know, to distribute weight and all that stuff, and get a feel for, you know, they had a fun box and a pyramid, and kind of getting them used to, back to when I was on the banana board. If you fall, you're not gonna die, you know, type shit. So I get him in the park, and he's loving it, you know, and as he's starting to get older and grow up, you know, skateboarding's still in our life, and I'm here with you today, and we get to hang out, and fucking kick it, and go to the demo, you know.
Get to see Jaws Homoki tomorrow.
Yeah, I get to see Jaws, man.
That's gonna be fucking wild.
Legend, you know. So long story short, that's how I started, man, and where I'm at today, for sure.
Well, yeah, man. That's a lot of good shit. Definitely wild. Definitely, you never realize how much shit you can put into 38 years of life.
And that's just the short version.
Yeah, until you're a skateboarder. Like I try to tell people, it's just a whole nother. We live a whole nother life than normal people.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle, you know. It's something that I think as an adolescent, you know, you become dedicated to. You know, it's like baseball or any other sport. You know,
it's like even if you aren't good, it's you started it because it looked fun. And then that's why you keep doing it. And I think that's where longevity comes in. Like you see a lot of people who'll do it and then they stop because they're skating for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
They're not skating for fun. Like the true skateboarders like us, like we're almost 40, like we're still doing it. Why? Like sure, we take some time off, you know, because we have family, we have wives, all that stuff, but we still come back to it because we started because it was fun.
Yeah, and it's still fun.
And that's why, you know.
It may hurt now, but it's still fun.
It hurts a lot more, but, you know, in 20 years, we're going to do we could do a 20-year episode of this episode.
Yeah.
And we'll still be, we probably will just be pushing around.
Yeah.
At 60, but.
Or riding beside each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, the pros, they can still do it at their age because they have money to go to the best doctors and stay young. We don't. We age like we're supposed to age. So that's why we're almost 40 and we can't skate like we used to.
You know, everything's got to be lower to the ground.
Yeah.
Not as high. You know, going from a 13 back to a 3. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Riding off a curb, it's like, this is too high. This is too
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, oh no, that rock! I'm going to hit the rock. I'm going to fall. I'm going to be out for a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you talking to us.
Hey, man. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Definitely have to do it again sometime. Maybe I'll come up to St. Louis soon and we'll film another episode. But I think this is the longest one almost.
Is it? I mean, we can keep going.
We're about 52 minutes. I don't know. If the camera does cut off, I don't know how much time we have left.
We'll pick up for part 2.
But we'll pick up for part 2. But, yeah, then tomorrow should be pretty dope.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I think the last time we saw a demo was when Black Label came up here. They did that back alley.
Was that at CBS?
Yeah, behind CBS. Yeah, that back alley. Yeah, that was the last demo we went to. I think it was a smaller venue. I don't think it's going to be as big as this one. So I'm stoked to see all them guys rip and go out and do the damn thing for sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to Jaws, but I'm also looking forward to Leo Romero.
Yeah,
he's been one of my favorites for a while, and then I guess is being out of the game for so long, it's like I don't know who a lot of these cats are.
Yeah,
I've been
to keep up.
Through the 9 Club and through different sources online. I've been trying to re-up my knowledge of skating because it's been so long.
Yeah.
But Dakota Servold, I think is his name. He's gonna be there. He fucking rips. Axel Crusher, or however you say his last name.
Yeah, Crusher.
He's a foreign guy, but he's sick. Like I seen him. I think and Dakota Servold. I think they were both on King of the Road.
Yeah.
That Thrasher King of the Road, and I was like, okay, these guys are pretty ripping. And I wish, because there's skaters from Toy Machine coming and Foundation.
A couple Birdhouse bros, right?
Yeah, and Birdhouse.
Yeah,
because that's what Jaws on. I never knew what team he was on.
These days it's hard telling, man. I think if you have your own YouTube channel or whatever, it's like, yep, you're pro.
Yeah, that I mean, I like it, but I don't, because some of these people aren't even trying to become real pro skaters. They want to become YouTube famous and make money off YouTube, but not try to be a pro on a team. And it's like, you don't realize that you're hurting skateboarding for real.
Yeah.
It's like, just you got the talent. Go and go to the team, man.
Yeah. Send a sponsoring video and get picked up like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know?
But like now it's so advanced from like even like 15, 20 years ago from when we were making our video. Like, you watch our video and it's like, man, we thought it was awesome. Because it had all the elements, like you said, like my Mannies and stuff like that. I had like my 50/50s and shove it outs and that. And you and Tony had the most technical stuff. Like y'all two were like the best ones on the team. Y'all had the most tech, and you could jump the big stuff.
No, the funny thing though about my run in Champion of the People, when we were at the monument and there was the ledges.
Yeah.
One of my favorite skaters is Stevie Williams. Coming up, and when I could actually watch videos, I think one of the first videos I watched it till the tape wore out, bro. Like fine artist, and he did a run at Love Park, and it's like where he comes up.
Did he manual the whole bottom stair?
No, this is the one where it starts off, and he does like that tail slide on that little lip, and then like the board kind of gets away from him, and he like does that run. I mimicked the same run in Champion of the People. Even I did the little thing where the board gets away from me.
Oh on the ledge at the ledge. Okay, yeah.
So
I remember that.
Like when we were filming that and we hit the monument spot, all I could think about was Stevie Williams and his run in Fine Artist, and I was like, I'm gonna mimic this and then see if anybody could pick it up.
Yeah.
And so that little run that I did there when we filmed Champion of the People, I mimicked that same run from Fine Artist. And,
nice.
But like now, you're right, man. Like the technical stuff is fucking insane.
I don't even know the names for half of this shit they have now. It's. I look on the like Instagram and shit, and like half of them don't even have names. It seems like, or just some off the wall shit, like a fakey 50,000 flip.
Yeah.
Like they're flipping it so many times and they're doing weird shit with it, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell y'all are doing. I'm like, it kicks ass. But we would have never thought of that skating would be like this 15, 20 years later, because it just advanced so much. But I mean, I guess that's the same like when Dogtown was coming up, like when the 80s, it got into the 80s and they got the big fat boards and they started doing the 80s tricks. The Dogtown guys were probably like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, like when the first boneless came up, it's like, how did it go from this and how did it progress? And I think it's amazing to see where the sport has started from and where it's at now, the Olympics, it's just finally there.
Some people are hating on that, about the Olympics and all that, but like, I honestly, man, I mean, why not? I mean, we've already had, the X Games, we got Street League and all this. I mean, like, it shows that it's just like a legit thing.
Yeah, sport. Yeah, I remember when snowboarding came into the the Olympics. It was like, I mean, I snowboard. I got my son; he's snowboarding. And why not consider something like that, as a sport? And I actually thought when snowboarding made it to the Olympics that skateboarding would have been right behind that, if not vice versa.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I don't think...
Because snowboarding came out so much after
skateboarding. And I didn't think that snowboarding at the time that it made it into the Olympics was as popular as skateboarding was. Because skateboarding had exploded so much by the time that it had made it to snowboarding made it to the Olympics. It's crazy to see that it went vice versa. Skateboarding finally has got its spotlight in the Olympics. Yeah,
so, I think it's great. Like I said, and I know a lot of people don't like to call skateboarding a sport. I mean, it's an art, it's a lifestyle, but you have teams, and teams they compete. We had Tampa Pro contests. We had Slam City Jam, all those contests, and where these people are competing against each other. It's a sport. So I mean, why fight it? Let it go to the Olympics, man, and just show that we kick ass at it. I know there's a lot of foreign skaters that are badass. A lot of Japanese, a lot of and people over there in Europe, because they have all that marble and they have
that smooth.
You can get
surface
on the train and just go down and stop, and this is everywhere you go.
Yep.
You fucking you watch the videos, you see them in the damn videos. It's so it's unlike here, you have to go to East Coast or West Coast, because like here in Memphis, we got our spots, but it's not like pros are just flying in to come skate Memphis. They did back in the day. We had the pit, the big threes. I've seen pictures of skaters that used to come down here. Chris Markovich. I think there's a video of him on YouTube. At a contest. They had a contest at the pit.
Shit.
And shit, it was like, I think it was like 89, 90 or something. Maybe 91, but yeah, they used to come down a lot.
It's kind of like St. Louis, man. I mean, I ride around and you get that like skateboard mentality, and you're like, oh, there's a ledge or there's a hubba.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have any wax on it, and it's like what the fuck's everybody doing around here?
Yeah,
they just go to the parks, and I mean, there's some dope parks, in the area. Kirkwood's got a new one. There's one not too far from my house in Caseyville, and there's one in Belleville, which isn't too far from my house. And I'm gonna take my boy there this summer after baseball and all that stuff and rip. But like I work in the city, and I literally drive by and I see all these spots, and I'm like, it's uncharted territory. And I know Spanky's from KC, and I know KC doesn't have a whole lot of spots. But it's like, here you got, Memphis, St. Louis, Kansas City, Little Rock, and those like, decent sized towns.
Stuff close,
yeah, close by, and it's like East Coast, West Coast, and that's where everybody wants to rip at.
New York, California,
yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like
a little bit of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
maybe.
Philadelphia. I think Bam helped put. Well, Love Park put that up, but then when Bam came out, like everybody was like, "Oh, Philadelphia, Love Park."
Yeah.
It became more known after Bam, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like skate parks. I mean, I don't really have a problem with them, but I think they're building so many now. It's like once you put up a skate park in a town, those police are like, you don't need to be street skating. You have a skate park, so you're killing a whole generation of skate streeters or street skaters.
Yeah.
Street skaters. So yeah, because that's that's me. I'm a street skater. I've never been good at transitions. Never been good at ramps and all that shit. I don't think I learned how to drop in until I was like fucking 24.
Wow.
So I could just I could still carve and on ramps and do stuff like that, but I never could drop in, and I finally just learned it one time. But I like to street skate, even if I'm not jumping down 15 stairs, and just to find a little ledge, do some grinds, find a mani pad, do something like that. Skate parks don't really like they go towards the more of like a vertical type skater. Even with the street stuff they have, it's still more, a vertical type stuff.
I think when I was here and skated with tripseven, I remember we would go to a park and we wouldn't be there that long.
Yeah.
It was like, this fucking sucks. Everything's stationary. It's already there. It's fucking crowded because everybody wanted to be there because they were too afraid to, street skate.
Yeah.
And then we would leave and then go street skate, and then it'd be like, we get pulled over, or hey, you get kicked out of here, we're calling the police here, and like we try to get that one like trick in real quick, before we get kicked out. And we came from that era of like street skating where we didn't need a park to keep us happy. The streets were our park, and and that's why we did what we did, and it was definitely like a golden era of skating for sure.
It definitely was mid-90s, just like the movie. The mid-90s, and actually from I'd say from 89 to like 98, 99, those were probably just the best years of skateboarding. I mean, there's 2000,
the early 2000s.
Early 2000s was good too, but there's definitely that's when the style of the 90s was getting set in stone.
Yeah. In the early 2000s.
In the early 2000s, sure. That's when I noticed that everything was getting set in stone. But just coming up at that time, I don't care. I think is the best. Like better than Dogtown, better
man.
better than all of them. Just because we had just enough. It was innovative still.
Yeah, still coming up with
still
tech tricks.
Still coming up with tech stuff. It was basically a whole nother level of Dogtown type skaters who were pushing them out, and like Pat Duffy doing like them giant ass handrails that nobody ever done before.
Yep.
Jamie Thomas jumping the leap of faith.
Yep. Watching dudes just do huge things that.
Josh Casper jumped 20 stairs. Like, was it on the Storm?
Was it the Storm? Yeah, Storm.
Jumped 20 stairs? Yeah. Like, what the hell?
That was one of my favorite flicks, man.
Yeah.
That intro, it's braining out, it's black and white, and I think it opens up, Tyrone Olsen does that tray flip 5-0, 180 out. And like that Riders on the Storm, man, that was like one of my favorite videos. And to say that we came from that era is one of the biggest things that I could always pass down. Anybody that I talk to, being our age, you go into like a bar or a public area or whatever, and you see a dude, with like a Creature shirt on, and you're like, hey man, you rip? No man, I don't want any more because you got the gray hair showing. It's like, but I watch every Thrasher video that comes out, or I still follow it, or I'll mess around with it, or if you got kids, yeah man, I'm passing it down, from generation to generation, and I think that's one of the dopest things, not only as a culture, being in the realm of skateboarding, but to be able to be physically involved, as a sport and as a lifestyle, even though a lot of people kind of still look down on it,
It's just great to be there.
Yeah.
Like you can say, because like like the Dogtown guys, like I would have loved to have been like, say I was there.
Yeah.
I was part of that, but we weren't. But we get to say we were part of this.
Yeah.
We were part of the '90s skateboarding, and it was
man.
It was
definitely a great experience, man. 20 years in the making, for sure. Yeah, still going out, toying around on it. Might not be able to do the shit that I used to be able to, but the cool thing is just it's that pass down, man. Like if you could pass it down, to nephew, niece, son, daughter, or whatever, where you can get them involved, be active. The kids nowadays, they're like, Fortnite? Yeah. And they're there for 10 hours after school, and it's like, shouldn't you be in bed?
Yeah.
Get into that video game swag. It's gut wrenching, But the cool thing about like us, like in the era that we came from, being 80s babies, we passed down that mentality to, our underlings, kids, nephews, whatever it is. So you're like, it's awesome to see, kids, at the park or whatever, still out playing off the video games, or go to the skate park and you see like little kids out there ripping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you can like literally point that kid out, and like you could see his dad, sitting on the bench. He might not be ripping, but he's like cheering him on, because he's like, we just taught you that, or and getting them outside and involved in that lifestyle. It ain't never gonna go away. Mm-hmm. I ain't never gonna go away, for sure.
Well, man, it was good talking. And,
I love you, bro. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah,
I'm glad to see you. It's been a long time, but thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we'll have some more guests soon. Watch this video, subscribe, like, share, all that, and we'll see you later.